Is that part of the
He don't have
motivation?
any record more than me. Finish. I beat all his record, but one thing I cannot beat. I cannot be like him fat. That's it. All records is I beat.
And it's fine. Just boring fuck, dude. He landed a head kick in round 2, and other than that, he did nothing for 20 minutes. He did fucking nothing. That's the truth. Zero. He caught him with a head kick in round 2, and other than that, he did fucking nothing. The whole fight.
I think that, you know, this is my honest opinion on it. I felt like tonight was set up for the upset. I felt like the upset could happen tonight with so much on the line, all the records that Islam has, and he's going to break Anderson Silva's record. There's weight classes for a reason. Ian Garry is a big, rangy, strong guy who has great takedown defense. I mean, if you look at his takedown defense tonight
against Islam, it was genuinely impressive.
And it's fine. Just boring fuck, dude. He landed a head kick in round 2, and other than that, he did nothing for 20 minutes. He did fucking nothing. That's the truth. Zero. He caught him with a head kick in round 2, and other than that, he did fucking nothing. The whole fight.
I felt like I think that Ian is a talented guy.
If he had any star killer instinct in that 5th round, I mean, he'd been destroying Islam's body the entire fight. Islam's whole right side was just battered star. His face was swollen. You don't come out in the 5th round and hug and shake hands. That drives me absolutely insane when there is so much star on the line.
And there's also, you know, a lot of mental, you know, gamesmanship, whatever you want to call it in this game. You come out in that 5th round with a flying knee or something crazy and you try to finish the fight. I think that this is one of those fights that Ian will go.
Watch my fights against Volkanovski, against Dustin Poirier. I can strike with anyone, but the Bulls fight where I strike with these guys is more this like hard fight for me, you know. That's why if wrestling not working, grappling not working, I can strike with anyone. But if I want the easy win, I have to.
Many people expect Islam to immediately take Garry down. But Garry doesn't see himself as an easy target. He has carefully studied Islam's fight with JDM and understands that one mistake could completely change the course of the fight. Garry knows he cannot afford even a moment of lost focus. Makhachev thrives on mistakes. Give him the smallest opening, and he can turn it into complete control. That's why Gary's strategy centers on stopping the takedown, staying constantly mobile, controlling the range, and forcing Islam to work for every bit of ground he tries to gain. If Makhachev has to stay standing and exchange strikes for any significant amount of time, Gary believes he'll make him pay.
Keep a hold of me, get me to the ground, hold me down. Can I stop him taking me down? Can I keep the movement? Can I keep hitting him, keep hurting him? And that's the fight. But it's I believe it's the most elite version of a striker versus a grappler that we've ever seen in the sport. I think it's the next generation of what MMA has turned into, because Islam is no slouch on the feet. Look at what he did to Jack Della Maddalena. Like, the guy can strike, but we don't talk about it because he's so good at the grappling. And for me, it's very simple. He is a phenomenal fighter in every facet of the game, as am I. And I think this is one of the most well-rounded fights we've ever seen in the...
Wait a second, Ian Garry may have just revealed exactly how he plans to approach UFC 303. He isn't really keeping his intention secret. Gary knows Makhachev will immediately look for takedowns, and his entire approach is focused on shutting those attempts down before Islam can establish any serious control on the ground. Gary believes his movement, enormous reach, accurate striking, and natural power can turn Islam's night into a nightmare, making things far more difficult than most people expect. He's essentially challenging Makhachev to prove he can do more than simply get hold of his legs. For Islam to secure those takedowns, he still has to keep Gary grounded and control the tempo and direction of the contest. If Makhachev cannot establish that control, Gary believes the momentum will completely shift toward him and create exactly the type of fight he wants. Once that happens, Gary expects to dictate the exchanges, choosing when and where the striking takes place. This could get very interesting.
Being an interesting fight, but the truth is it's such a black and white fight. It's he has to get me down, I have to keep it on the feet. However, it's the most elite of both of those worlds. He is unbelievably good when he grabs a hold of people, and I am unbelievably good at moving around on the feet and being the best striker in the world. So it's how do we get our games going to win the fight? Who's going to control the fight? Who's going to get the fight where they want it to be, keep it where they want it to be? Can he grab a hold of me, keep a hold of me, get me to the ground, hold me down? Can I stop him taking me down? Can I keep the movement? Can I keep hitting him, keep hurting him? And
that is the fight right there. But Islam Makhachev took things in another direction during the UFC 303 press conference. He addressed Ian Garry head-on. Islam described Gary as a good guy who has suddenly started behaving like a bad boy. Makhachev also made his lack of respect for that attitude completely obvious. His message was straightforward: he intends to humble him. This isn't simply another title challenge for Islam. He wants to defeat Gary inside the cage, but he also appears determined to damage the confidence and mentality Gary has been displaying. For Makhachev, getting the victory is only one part of the objective. Making Gary realize who is truly in control when that cage door shuts is a completely different mission. What do you think? Is Ian prepared for it?
and sometimes he does interviews. Yeah.
I think he's good person, good guy, but he act like he's like bad boy, something like this. But I tell in the interview also, we'll make him humble.
Alright, let's focus on Ian Garry, especially Sonnen's reaction to Gary's unusual behavior during fight week. Sonnen, someone very familiar with the mind games and media attention surrounding major fights, noticed something particularly strange during a recent media appearance. Gary reportedly instructed reporters to keep their questions strictly about the fight and avoid anything personal. Sonnen found that decision extremely interesting because fighters normally don't have to establish such boundaries before a major event. That led him to a bigger question: why did Gary feel the need to set those rules at all? Sonnen believes the pressure of facing Islam Makhachev at UFC 303 could be affecting Gary behind the scenes. With the matchup getting closer, Sonnen feels Gary's composure, discipline, and ability to handle the intense attention may prove nearly as important as the skills he brings into the octagon.
Chance with Ian Garry, not standing on the feet. Ian Garry needs to put Islam unconscious. That's a quote by Ian Garry. Now, is it true? I do know since 1993, we've talked about, well, if it's standing, it's this guy, and if it goes to the ground, it's this guy. I do appreciate that, and that narrative isn't completely gone, but it feels very lazy. Let's just reverse the roles, okay? So, Islam can't stand with Ian. Well, let's reverse the roles. Let's say they're on the ground. Can Ian go with Islam? Can he compete? Can he protect himself? If the answer there is no, I'm not sure this should be a world championship fight. But the same thing would be said on the feet. You're telling me that the number one ranked fighter in the world can't fight standing up? You want to know who's a good stand-up fighter? You want to know who's an awesome stand-up fighter? Volkanovski. But do you want to know who beat Volkanovski in a stand-up fight? Islam. You want to know who's a really good stand-up fighter? Teddy Atlas has gone so far as to say the best boxer in MMA is Dustin Poirier. And do you want to know who held his own tit for tat with Dustin Poirier?
Is Ian Garry really an elite fighter? Sonnen isn't completely convinced. Sonnen openly acknowledges that Garry possesses high-level striking and understands that reaching the level of a world title contender requires serious ability. However, he doesn't want people rushing to place Garry among MMA's very best strikers. His argument is straightforward. Having polished technique and competing for championships doesn't automatically mean a fighter has a massive striking advantage over someone like Islam Makhachev. Garry obviously has dangerous weapons, but Sonnen believes the reputation surrounding his stand-up game has sometimes gone beyond what his record has clearly proven. At this level, simply being good isn't enough. If Ian Garry is going to be called truly elite, Sonnen wants to see undeniable proof when the competition and pressure are at their highest.
And are at their absolute highest.
The idea that Ian Garry is this really great stand-up fighter. I'll drink to that. He's really good at something. He's got an incredible record. He's fighting for a world championship in a sold-out arena. I don't discount his striking. It's just a matter of, I don't know what value to put into that anymore. I don't know. Can you become a great striker without competing in the striking arts? I can't come to you and tell you that Ian Garry was a Golden Gloves anything, or that he was looked at.
But Sonnen takes his argument even further. He goes back through Justin Gaither's fight history and highlights one particularly important example, Gaither's matchup with Michael Venom Page. Many viewed that contest as the perfect opportunity for Gaither to prove that his striking truly belonged among the elite. But what actually happened? When Gaither faced Page, he was willing to pursue grappling exchanges instead of relying entirely on his stand-up game. For Sonnen, that creates a major question heading into UFC 300. What actual evidence proves Gaither would dominate Islam Makhachev if the fight remained standing? Sonnen believes fans may be treating Gaither's supposed striking advantage as established fact when it's still more of a theory until he proves it against the very best competition. And Sonnen also refuses to assume that Islam Makhachev automatically becomes vulnerable simply because a fight stays on the feet.
Outclass on his feet. He fought one really good striker, and that was MVP, and he didn't have that same confidence. There's a lot of grappling in that fight, but that grappling was initiated by Ian Garry. And that's not a put down, that's strategy. I'm just offering with what evidence do you come in a confidence that if it stays standing more than it goes on the ground, it's going to favor Islam. Are you sure about that?
Taking that argument,
Thiago just delivered a blunt reality check. And according to him, many fans have completely misunderstood what it takes to defeat Islam Makhachev. The common belief is simple, isn't it? Stop the takedowns, force the fight to stay standing, and eventually knock Islam out.
It appears he's got to keep him standing. He's got to set him up with something, because he's got to put him down. He can't outpoint him. He doesn't want to go 25 minutes.
Then it's, I'm knocking him out. And if you're Team E versus Garry, that's excellent news. Because your
athlete knows what time it is. He knows what the task is. It's very, very helpful. I found it to be very encouraging.
Then the next step is supposed to be finishing him with strikes. And if you're backing Ian Garry in this matchup, that could be very good news.
Is ridiculous. When you look at the last few fights that he had, the people on his resume, it's insane. Jack Della Maddalena, Renato Moicano, granted on a day's notice, and he made it look easy, got it done in just 4 minutes. Before that, Dustin Poirier submitted him. Alexander Volkanovski 2 times in a row. Charles Oliveira, Bobby Green, Dan Hooker, Thiago Moises. When Thiago Moises was the real deal, when he was a contender, when he was coming up and he was very, very hungry. So as I say, he's on a run. The record of Islam Makhachev is 28 wins and 1 loss with 18 stoppages. And of course, if he can get a hold of Ian Garry and take him down, yeah, it's probably going to be easy. Ian will struggle to get back to his feet, and I don't think he can match Islam in terms of jiu-jitsu or submission grappling, okay? But it's the style that Ian Garry has. It is the length and the reach that he has, and it is his ability to silence out the crowd and not give a damn if you people are booing. If everyone in the arena is throwing their popcorn and the drinks and going, boo, this is garbage, because all Ian Garry is doing is dancing around, popping the jab, throwing the right hand, using push kicks to keep Islam away, he won't care, because on paper, or according to the judges, he's winning the fight, and his job is to win the fight and become the welterweight.
Michael Bisping has pointed out a major concern surrounding Ian Machado Garry and the problem he could face against Islam Makhachev. Imagine Islam getting a solid grip on Garry and turning the contest into an extended grappling battle. Bisping believes Garry could quickly find himself in a very uncomfortable position. However, Bisping isn't counting Garry out. He specifically praises Garry's excellent footwork, sharp jab, long reach, and non-stop movement. According to Bisping, those qualities could be essential for keeping Makhachev at distance and stopping him from finding his preferred rhythm. His overall assessment is interesting. Garry doesn't need to enter UFC 330 looking for an all-out war or spectacular finish. The goal is much simpler: win rounds, collect points, avoid Islam's most dangerous positions, and leave the arena as welterweight champion. That creates a fascinating tactical clash between Makhachev's pressure and grappling against Garry's movement and long-range striking.
Seems like he might be fighting Ian Machado Garry in August. And what do you make of that matchup?
I'm predicting this fight is going to deliver.
Ian Garry, it's definitely a tough opponent, very good striker. But Islam, once again, his goal gonna be to bring the fight to the ground. If he's able to do that, he's gonna have an edge. If Ian Garry is able to keep it on the feet, Ian gonna have an edge, so it's gonna be interesting. Yeah, Islam has the edge in terms of skills because he's more well-rounded. He can do it all. And he, especially with his grappling, he's got an edge in that department. And I think that's what he's gonna try to.
Islam Makhachev versus Ian Garry. Incredible. But Makhachev isn't convinced by Garry's confidence for even a moment. He believes he's already identified the weaknesses and knows exactly how he wants to exploit them. Islam has publicly criticized Garry's behavior, describing him as immature, while making it clear that his goal is to humble him once they enter the octagon. Garry, however, remains completely confident. He's openly challenging Makhachev to attack his legs and prove that he can actually keep him on the ground. Garry believes Islam will have no choice but to wrestle because his own approach is built around movement, controlling range, and maintaining constant striking pressure. But here's where things get interesting. Analysts remain divided over whether Garry's striking really belongs among the elite, as many fans claim. Michael Bisping believes the matchup could become extremely difficult for Garry if Makhachev manages to secure control of him. Georges St-Pierre, meanwhile, views the contest as a fascinating battle between Garry's long-range striking and Islam's championship-level grappling. Even GSP still favors Makhachev because he has more ways to threaten and control an opponent. The talking is nearly finished. Islam wants to push Garry into deep waters, disrupt his timing, and establish the suffocating control that has defined his success. Garry promises the complete opposite. He plans to punish Islam whenever the fight remains standing, forcing him to chase takedowns that he believes won't succeed. Two fighters, two completely different strategies, and one massive UFC 330 showdown. Once the cage closes, there will be no more theories, warnings, or predictions. We'll finally discover which fighter can impose his world on the other.